You ever turned on the TV and seen the ad for that new product? New and improved, bigger, better, stronger. If you don't have this product, you really don't have anything. You get excited. You run and grab your money, head right to the stores. You buy it, ready to use it, ready to have your whole life changed, flipped upside and down. But when you try it out, it's really not that great, is it? Rarely are they that great. And you soon realize that the product that you've been using for years is actually better than that. The old, trusty, stand the test of time product is actually better, which is why it stood the test of time. You ever seen that show, America's Funniest Home Videos? It's one of the classics, right? American classic video. I call it the YouTube before YouTube even existed. People recording, people doing crazy, stupid stuff, and we get the opportunity to laugh at them and say, what in the world were they thinking? But the thing about AFV now is what it's called, you know, they make it hip. The thing about it is, a lot of the times, they really aren't that stupid. I mean, it'd be a good idea. It starts out a good idea, but then something just goes wrong. And I think that's what makes it so funny. I mean, what's wrong with jumping on your bed to Justin Bieber's new single, enjoying yourself? Nothing, right? Unless you forget that there's a ceiling fan over your head. Then it turns into comedy. Nothing wrong with old people dancing at a wedding, unless they had too many drinks and they're falling all over each other. That's America's Funniest Home Videos. So what do you do when something bad goes on? Well, you grab your camera if you're trying to win $100,000. But what about the serious stuff? The stuff that just is bad? Or what about the stuff that starts out good and ends up bad? The stuff that starts out pure but ends up being corrupted. Was once effective but now is ineffective due to people, the decisions that we make, the choices we make that can corrupt something good and turn it into something bad. What do we do in those situations? Well, odds are we have to do something to change it, right? We have to figure out some way to make it better, to improve it so that that won't happen again. And that's exactly where we start out in the scriptures today. Jesus coming back to the temple we talked about in week 1, right? The temple that God declared the Israelites built for him so that they would always remember that he's dwelling with them. And so Jesus returns to this temple and he sees it. He sees it not quite the way it was supposed to be. Because Jesus sees the temple that's actually very distorted. And if we go to the scriptures, right there in Matthew 21:12, we actually see Jesus' reaction when he does see the temple. And here's what it says. Jesus entered the temple area and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. It is written, he said to them, my house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers. Okay, wait, what's going on here? I mean, why is Jesus saying this, right? I mean, are there really robbers in the temple? Not exactly. Here's what he's talking about. You see, way back in the day, Moses had already told them that they need to make sacrifices for God. And so they continued that tradition to that day. And everyone who came to the temple made those sacrifices. So what are the money changers going to do? They're going to offer doves, right? They're going to offer you the chance to have doves. Ooh, it's risky. You can also bring a little bit of money, right? We'll take care of that. And Jesus says, wait a minute, this doesn't look like the temple it's supposed to be. Because all of a sudden, the people who have money can make the sacrifices, but what if you don't have money? What if you don't have enough money to buy the doves? And that's what Jesus gets upset about. And that's why he starts flipping over the tables. And he goes on to another scripture. And see, if we go to Hebrews, we see that it actually has a lot of Jewish law in it. It's kind of complicated, but it actually speaks to the purpose of Jesus, exactly why Jesus had come here to earth, why God sent him. And here's what it says. The time is coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant in the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their forefathers when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they did not remain faithful to my covenant, and I turned away from them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant I will make to the house of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will a man teach his neighbor or a man his brother, saying, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will forgive their wickedness, and I will remember their sins no more. This wasn't the temple that Jesus built. This wasn't even the temple that God wanted. Now, this was something else. This was man taking what was once pure and corrupting it. You see, the reality is they just wanted to inflate the price. Okay, people needed doves. They needed money. Let's give them what they want. Supply and demand. It's kind of like the gas epidemic we had a few years ago, right? You needed to go somewhere. The gas stations knew that. So what did they do? They said, well, people need gas. Let's go ahead and hike the prices up. $2, $3, $4. We're paying $5 a gallon just for gas. And of course, they're looking the same way at the temple. If they need the animals, why not just charge them a little bit more? And Jesus says, no, that's not what I'm about. I'm about everyone having the opportunity to make their way to me. You see, last week we talked about a God who came down and made himself accessible to the Israelites, accessible to his people, and made them his nation. And then he did them one even better. He said, you know what? You can build a sanctuary for me and I will come down. The mighty God who created all of earth will come down and actually dwell with you. And then we have Jesus who comes and says, you know what? They've ruined that temple. They've ruined that sanctuary. And so God sent me and said, no longer will you need that temple. Now all you need is me. I got to choose the right one. And so as man kept distorting, kept ruining, kept being just for the wealthy, just for the elite, just for the best, along came Jesus for the person who didn't quite have enough money, didn't quite have anything, wasn't wealthy, wasn't the most smart in the word, just one person, because that's all Jesus needed. He said this was bound to fall anyways. All he required was one person. You see, reality is this. A lot of you may feel like you're insufficient. And a lot of times your teachers may tell you you're not smart enough, or your parents may ridicule you, or your friends or your peers in school may tell you you're ugly, or you're slow, or you're not really cool. And all of a sudden you don't quite feel like you fit in. And you start feeling like the ugly kid. You start looking like the forgotten girl. The guy who doesn't like himself because maybe he weighs too much. Maybe he doesn't weigh enough. Never had a girlfriend? Never had a boyfriend? Nobody notices me? These are the people that Jesus came back for. And that's the reason why throughout the scriptures we see that they ridiculed Jesus, and he had problems with people that should have rejoiced his coming. Why? Because they wanted the church to be the way that they saw it. They wanted the temple and the rituals to be exclusive, just for a few people. And Jesus challenged that entire notion and said, you know what, it's not just for these people, it's for everyone. You know, chances are, sometime this week, somebody's going to tell you you don't measure up. Somebody's going to tell you that you're just not quite good enough for them or for whatever they got going on. But reality is this. Jesus said there's a place for everyone. There's a place that everyone can come. Because this temple isn't going to suffice. No. He said there's a temple that he wants to reside. If before he came to dwell with us in a sanctuary, then Jesus came to dwell with us in this sanctuary. It actually says that in Corinthians, that our bodies are the new temples for Jesus. So at the end of the day, to the girls who've decided they're going to follow Jesus, they're going to do life together and hold each other accountable. And to the guy who's decided, you know what, it doesn't matter if anyone else believes in me. I know Jesus does. And the guy who's just ready, who's ready to be loved unconditionally and invite Jesus inside his temple. That's the new church. That's what Jesus is all about. Coming and intersecting with us in our lives right where we are, not to just hang out with us and remind us that he's with us at all times. Now, he said, I want to come right inside and live inside this temple of you and of me.